Plastic. Oh my gosh. You think we hear plastic enough, ad nauseum? However, plastic is a big problem. It's a wicked problem. We can't seem to do without it. It's become a huge part of our convenience lifestyle, yet it is mounting in landfills and in the ocean and on beaches, and it's in our food and it's in our water. And I mean, plastics everywhere now. And now there's a lot of questions about the health impact of all these little bits of plastic that are wandering around in our world. And it was a great invention. I remember my first soda bottles out of plastic. I mean, yeah, I'm that old. Y'all can laugh. But we were so excited because they didn't break and they didn't, they weighed a lot less. But I did lose the deposit that I used to get. Mom and Dad would let us go take the bottles back and get the deposit. So that went away. But plastic went a lot of directions that we did not anticipate. So now what do we do?
Living green or sustainably is about more than saving on your electric bill and doing your part to protect natural resources. It is about a safer and healthier life for you and your family without sacrificing style, quality, or budget. This is a movement to provide all of us with clean air to breathe and water to drink, safe, healthy food to eat, and places to live, and energy to run the places where we live, learn, work, and play. Join your host, Marla Esser Close, the Green Home Coach, to learn how everyday green homes work for you, your family, and your community.
Well, hey, y'all. It's Marla, Green Home Coach. And I'm always super excited to be here, but today's like super double, triple excited because I get to do a podcast with my son, Trent. And it's so cool that we get to work together, Trent. And
oh, yeah.
So thanks for being an awesome kid that went off and did something that is amazing. So let you introduce yourself, Trent, because if folks haven't heard from you before, we've done a couple of podcasts before, but it's been a bit. And Trent's in St. Louis. I'm in Oklahoma City. We used to all be in St. Louis, but now we're over Zoom.
Yeah, it's a different format this time.
I know, right? So tell us a little bit about what you're up to and why the heck you might know something about plastic.
Yeah. So I am the co-founder of a company here in St. Louis called Printerior. We are a 3D printing company that focuses on creating a circular solution for our industry. We work with a set of recycled plastics that we then turn into 3D printer filament. That filament can be used to create new objects. We have developed 3 different materials that we have seen that majorly impact the waste created within the industry. And we are now hoping to basically try and reduce the waste that is created in this new industry that's big and exciting, but it is currently generating a lot of waste, and we're trying to fix that.
Yeah. So you were telling me, I don't know, a while back that 3D printing was huge before the pandemic. And then through the pandemic, it just literally exploded with so many people jumping on board.
Yeah, well, it's a good mix of time right now that the technology is really advanced. The price of at-home printers has really dropped, and the innovation side has gotten really high, and people are looking for new hobbies. And it's a really cool technology. The fact that you can go take a 3D file from your computer and just upload it, and all of a sudden it appears within a couple hours is pretty wild. So yeah, it definitely, it really is. It's kind of insane, but. Yeah, the whole thing really exploded. And I think, we've probably seen double or triple the growth in especially hobbyist users over the past, 2 to 3 years.
Well, I'm amazed at how much stuff I see on Etsy that's 3D printed.
Yeah, I see them everywhere now. I saw some people handing out 3D printed little things for Halloween.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Well, that's a good idea.
Mm-hmm. Just little trinkets and ghosts and figures and stuff. That's cool.
Everybody loves my little business card holder that you made for me. I get a lot of comments on that. So fun stuff that can be done. And I'm amazed at what all y'all can make in the shop. Once you have that filament made from recycled plastic, it's really kind of seems like the sky's the limit. There's a lot of options.
Oh, yeah. And technology is getting better and better every day.
So this whole idea of plastic, I mean, we created, too much of a good thing, right? We created this material that was lighter weight, more indestructible, lasted longer, therein lies part of the problem because it doesn't deteriorate, it doesn't biodegrade. And that was a great thing until we started using it for everything. I mean, I know you've grown up with a life that you don't remember not ever having things around that were plastic. When you were growing up, we probably got milk in plastic jugs, and everything at the grocery store comes wrapped in plastic, still does. And, you know, we have the sanitary and the hygiene side of things, and plastic is really good for that. But we've come up with a couple of problems that plastic's everywhere, for one thing. And is a lot of that just due to there being so much single-use plastic, or because we've all like really valued this convenience so highly, or why is it just seeming to explode?
I think it goes to a couple factors. Convenience is obviously a huge one. The ability to have a material that's lightweight, doesn't break, can basically be formed to any shape rather easily is an incredibly convenient thing. The other thing is on the industry side, it's effective. It's easy to manipulate into basically any product that you want it to be. And there's so many types that you can make it fit the characteristics that you need it to fit. And it's inexpensive. Whereas going out and saying, you know, making a new glass bottle, it's not a cheap endeavor. And not to say plastic is cheap. It's incredibly expensive still to make a mold for a plastic product, but it's much cheaper than many other materials. And so, yeah, it kind of breaks down to the versatility of it. And, you know, that's why there's billion-dollar plastic corporations out there that are creating new types all the time. And, you know, all this innovation and research that's been put into the industry. There's a reason behind it. And it is because of, you know, it's not a wonder material because, you know, we have to figure out how to dispose of it, but it's pretty great for a lot of uses that you need it to be used for.
Yeah. I know when Scott was in the hospital so much a few years ago, I mean, I'm not sure he would have made it if we didn't have plastic, because so much of the stuff that they used for him was, you know, high grade medical plastic. And
yeah,
so there definitely is a place for it. I see that. And I think, you know, the first thing a lot of us think of is when we think of plastic waste, I think there's two things that most of us, maybe three, that most of us think of: plastic grocery bags, plastic water bottles, plastic straws.
Yeah.
And all of those are single-use things that we use for a few minutes, maybe seconds, and then we toss. And they last for, 1,000 years in a landfill?
Oh, yeah. No, some of them can last for a very long time, especially depending on, you know, what the part is and what kind of material it's made out of. And those are obviously the ones that everyone always thinks of because they're the single use, really quick throwaways. But man, think about everything else that's in your house that's made of plastic. It's right. Not a short list. Yeah,
we've worked, as you well know, since I got a cancer diagnosis earlier this year, we've worked hard to get plastic out of at least the kitchen. Mm-hmm. And we're probably 85-90% there. But yeah, I mean, there's some things like I still want to freeze things, and I have a few of the silicone bags and stuff. But if it's something bigger than that, I don't want to put all my good glass containers in the freezer because then they're stuck there for a month or whatever. Yep. So you got all these things that you got to think about. And there's good alternatives for a lot of stuff, though. And I think we see more alternatives now than we have probably in a long time. Although I have to laugh. Your grandmother's always telling me, hey, we lived green, quote unquote, back when I was a kid. And I was like, well, yeah, you did, because that was what you had. Mm-hmm. But it didn't stay that way. And no, that's probably the challenge.
Well, and we're even doing a little bit better than we used to in terms of material. I was going through a call the other day with a company that we work with that they used to do almost completely thermoset plastics, which there's two kinds of major plastics. There's thermosets, which are basically forever plastics. They'll never break down.
Okay.
And then there's thermoplastics, which are what most people think and what you use, which those do at least break down and can be recycled. And so the use of thermosets is actually drastically reduced over the past about 20 years. So we've made small gains in that section because there's at least something there that can be reused. We just have to figure out how to do it.
So you mentioned earlier when we were talking offline that there's a bunch of different kinds of plastic, and we've got all these single-use plastics. And I think a lot of people think, oh, I'll just recycle and that'll take care of the problem. Mm-hmm. And what you were mentioning earlier is because we have so many different kinds of plastic, that's affecting the recycle rates. So can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So it's not only when you think about the numbers that are on the bottom of a piece of plastic, you know, you have your 1 through 7 plastics. That's good. It makes up a lot of the spectrum of plastic. So you have, 1 through 5, which are relatively easy to recycle, depending on what they are. And
Okay.
the problem with that is that if you take one set of categories, so take a number one, which is a PET, there's still about another 20 to 30 kinds of plastic that are within that category. So you have a PETE, a PETG, a PTTE. There's a ton of different ways that people have formulated these things in order to make them fit their specific application or part or material requirement, which makes it super hard for recyclers to go and look at and say, even if it might be in that number one category, but if it's a PETG, it can't be recycled with a PET. So
Ouch.
you have a bunch of problems with that within that. And then if you want to get even more technical, you can go look at something that's like a number 5, which is a polypropylene. It's a PP plastic. Not only are there several different kinds of polypropylene in general that encompass the big group, there's probably about 100 to 200 different types of polypropylene that are made by every company has their own formulation. They have their own additives, they have their own different pieces that they're looking to put into the plastic to make it fit specific applications so that they can sell to that kind of market. And so I had a contact today that we were talking to that has a bunch of ABS plastic from computers. The problem is it's from 50 different manufacturers. Well, unfortunately, we can't even use that in our process because maybe something has a higher melting rate than something else. And then we're sitting there and it's going to, it can't work in our machines. There are some machines that can work with it, but not every machine is specialized for stuff like that. So it makes it super hard, especially on the recycler side, with the vast array of plastics that have been created. To sort through them, it's a feat for sure.
So I know the company TerraCycle has been doing a lot of research on hard to recycle materials.
Yeah.
Has any of their research been able to help you?
We've talked to TerraCycle a couple of times and looked into some of the information they've had. And they've done really good leaps on certain products. They're actually one of the only other companies in the US that even attempts to recycle 3D printer filament. It's just one of those niches that it's a really hard material to recycle. And they've done a really good job on trying to do some of that kind of stuff. But it does help the strategy that they've taken of getting so niche down that you have, this is what we do and this is all we do. And it's like, this box is only filled with this one kind of plastic. Makes it a lot easier, honestly, in the end to recycle it.
So for listeners that aren't aware of TerraCycle, one of the things that you can do is you can send away and pay for a recycling box that's for one category of things. So think like candy wrappers or makeup tubes like mascara and lipstick tubes, or a certain vendor like Procter & Gamble may sponsor a box for all of their hair care products. And but it's a way to get those companies, their name in front of you and that they're trying to be part of the circularity of these things. And 2, it's also a way for us out here, the general public, to learn more about really hard to recycle stuff and hopefully make it a little easier. I keep thinking I need to put like a box for mascara and makeup stuff in like a place where it's mainly women.
Yeah. Hey, if you want to see TerraCycle out in the wild, look up at any like cigarette butt dump on the city street, and it's probably a TerraCycle bin.
And what do they do with those? With cigarette butts?
They figured out how to recycle the cotton and pull it all apart and basically wash everything out of it and make it into like clean cotton. I have no idea what they do with it, but they figured out a process that works in an economy of scale.
Yeah. I'll put a link in the show notes. So if you're interested, go check them out. And it's a great way to do like some kind of a campaign in a local group in your community just to get a TerraCycle box to help recycle something that maybe people didn't know was recyclable.
Yeah.
Okay. So we got all these kinds of plastic. We've got, and I know just as simple as everybody not being able to put film plastics like their grocery bags in their single stream recycling gets everybody really worked up. I have to laugh when I watch people putting all of their recyclables into a plastic bag and then putting it in their recycle bin. And they don't realize that what they did is they just put that whole bag into the landfill because usually somebody's not going to empty it out and put it in the recycle. So we have this first step that we have different kinds of plastic that can't even, like the plastic film, like grocery bags and stuff, that just mucks up the equipment is what I've always been told is why it doesn't go through single stream.
Yeah. To put it through a grinder is really hard. It just shreds into, mess.
Well, and even we were having this conversation a little bit ago as well, is so we've got this single stream system now where we're trying to put everything in to one bin, and then somewhere along the line, people or mechanics are separating them out.
Yeah. So that's been a very interesting process to watch over the past couple of years, because there are certain municipalities out there that still allow you to come off and basically sort your recycling per number, per item. So they'll have, cardboard and glass, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 kinds of like plastic bins that are in that facility, and actually makes it way easier on the recycler, and it really increases the rates of recycling. And so in the world of single stream, the overall recycling rates have, dropped since we've introduced programs like that, which those programs weren't introduced by the recyclers. So
I've heard 9% of our available recycling actually gets recycled.
Yeah. And not to say that single stream's totally, done for. There's some hope for it in the future with, chemical recycling versus mechanical recycling, but, we're still quite a ways away from that, unfortunately.
So has it really become such a problem because of the contamination, or because there's just too many things to recycle and they don't get sorted out well, or combination, or?
Yeah, it's a combination. There's just so many, because you got to think about it. Most recycling facilities don't actually use robotics, which some have started. California's had a couple of recycling plants that are using very high-end robotics that use basically AI vision and little air jets to blow items in certain directions whenever they know what type of plastic it is. But a lot of them still use, people by hand that go through a conveyor belt, or they have, certain equipment that'll pick out bottles, or it'll pick out, certain random things here and there. But that equipment's it's not as sophisticated as we would like it to be. And so even when you have, people down there and, they pick up a salad bin and they say, oh, it's, black, I can't even see the logo on the bottom, that's going in the landfill. Yeah, it's just that easy, unfortunately.
Yeah. No, I guess if it can't be quick and easily discernible, then the easy answer wins.
Yep.
Which is unfortunate, because there are people trying to do the right thing. Mm-hmm. And I see even in our own neighborhood, people trying to do the right thing by putting everything in recycling without paying attention, and also not realizing that they're potentially making it worse. But I think... Yeah. And I know that a lot of people are trying to find things with less packaging, because that's where a lot of this single-use plastic seems to be, is in addition to the water bottles as packaging. I guess in a way, a grocery bag's packaging. I don't think a straw qualifies as packaging, but 2 out of 3. Want to find and sell the value of green homes and features in your clients' projects and homes? I'm Marla Close, the Green Home Coach, and I have built What Makes a Green Home Green audio program just for you. This program offers an easy-to-understand language, audio trainings that are easy to consume on the go, with resource guides to help you absorb the information and reference it easily in your day-to-day activity. Your investment in this green home knowledge could unlock thousands of dollars more in business for your home projects. Check out What Makes a Green Home Green and how it will help you find and sell the value of green homes and features in your clients' projects and homes. greenhomecoach.com/homepro. So you guys use materials that are made from recycled plastic to make your filament.
Yeah.
So what kind of materials do you guys use?
Yeah. So right now we're currently selling 2 different kinds of plastic. One is called PLA and the other one is called PETG. So we actually kind of took a different route into getting these materials. So we wanted to get them out to market and as clean as possible and figure out our programming before we really moved into doing post-consumer plastic, which is the really hard one, where we take it all from individual hobbyists and turn it into new stuff. But we're on the road to doing that. We're actually just finishing up testing with a bunch of batches of that right now. We're getting ready to launch that material. But we work, for our current materials, we work with industry. So industry is honestly one of the biggest waste factors in plastic waste right now, because when you're going and, making a plastic product, say you're going to go make a salad tray, something like that, like something that you pick up at the store. It's just, big plastic bowl, whatever. you're going to lose about 20% of the material that you put into that. For all the plastic trays you're going to make, you're going to lose about, 20% of the material. So most of those facilities are using thousands of pounds a day. So they're wasting, hundreds of pounds a day. And so we'll take that waste directly from them and we'll turn it into filament.
Okay.
And so that gives us the ability to know what we're working with, have a really clean stream, and be able to, manipulate and create a really, really high value product. And so that's how we've basically gone in as a startup and, put our foot in the door and said, hey, we're going to offer this recycled product to the market. And it's going to be a really, really high quality product. But, it's not our 100% end goal, but it's how we're going to do it for now. And so we've did that. We've done it really well. And now we're doing that same thing. We replicated it with several other materials that we have coming out next year. And now we're looking back and saying, okay, so how can we go take care of that waste that, is generated by the market? Because it's reusable material. It's good stuff. It's clean material. We know what it is. And, it is usable. It's just a little harder because, it's not all the same color and it's not all, clean shred. And so, we have to go take
prints. These are like unusable 3D prints or the leftover filament that they're not using. So they come out of the 3D printing world, that plastic does.
Yeah, it's all consumer waste. So yeah, we work with hobbyists, we work with school districts, universities, maker spaces to basically collect all of their waste in and, reuse it. And so we'll, shred it back down, do some special things to it to make it re-extrudable again. And then, we'll turn it back into new filament. It's a process that we, took us quite a while to figure out how to actually do it at a really high quality level because filament's a hard one. 3D printer filament's a really hard one. The tolerances on it and the quality level that have to be attained to make it the material printable, it's incredibly high for most of the plastic industry. Basically, the only thing that's harder to manufacture is medical tubing. Which is very hard to manufacture.
Yikes.
So it's a big feat in order to be able to do it. But the time and the effort has been put in, and we're ready to try and actually just make a fully circular program within the 3D printing world.
Will you be the first ones?
So to do post-consumer, we will be the first ones out to market. They'll be able to do post-consumer plastics. We're about to launch several other materials that are going to be post-industrial, that are going to be the first post-industrial of those materials out on the market as well.
So how do people decide what materials they're printing with in their 3D printers?
So the majority of people in the world will print with PLA. If you're new to printing or you're a hobbyist, you're going to print with PLA, which PLA is actually a bioplastic. It is made from corn, usually. There's a couple other things to be made from, but it's pretty much always made from corn. That material is really great. It's really easy to print with. It doesn't have weird properties where it'll like cool really quickly and deform or like warp off the bed. So it's why most people use it. And it's incredibly forgiving. And it's been branded, unfortunately, in a very interesting light that it's a compostable plastic, which it is if it's in an industrial composting facility.
Yeah.
But the thing is, unfortunately, right now, there's hardly any U.S. composters that will take plastics at all. They don't want to take the risk. They know that it's, they don't know what plastic it is. They don't deal in plastics. They deal in compost. So they won't even usually take it. They'll landfill it, unfortunately. So that's why we looked around and we said, hey, let's re-educate the market a little bit and let's figure out, it's a recyclable material too. Because even in the end is, if you're going to go throw it in a composting unit, well, you just took a virgin piece of plastic that has, 6 to 7 more lifetimes out of it, and you threw it in a composting facility. So sure, it broke down, but was it used to its fullest potential? No. And so for this example, we work with the consumer packaging industry for mostly food products. So we take in, if you ever see any like utensils or food trays that are single use and that kind of stuff that say compostable on them, they're usually made out of PLA. And so we work with those companies directly to take their waste. And we're actually working on building some post-consumer programs with them where they could, kind of do that process of they send out all these utensils to a organization for an event. The organization bags them all up and sends them back and we recycle them again.
If a plastic says that it's compostable, does it also have a recycling symbol on it?
Yes, it should be a number 7, but usually
7s are rare to see recycled in municipal programs from what I've seen.
If you put a compostable PLA fork or utensil or bowl in a standard multi-stream recycling, it will not get recycled. It will not happen.
So how are you getting the product then if it's not being recycled out there?
So we work directly with the manufacturer. So we get their industrial waste. And then, it's post-industrial, but we're also working with them on building post-consumer lines where it's trying to offer a circular option to, events or people that are using their products. But
like there's a company here in Oklahoma City, and there's a similar company in St. Louis that does this, that'll come to events and they will help users that are throwing things away to determine if they should go in the compost or in the recycles or in the landfill. And when we're at those kind of events, then with that education and that help, people tend to get things better.
Yeah, because we've started these programs, we've had so many companies reach out to us trying to figure out, can we use our waste in 3D printing, in which it's not always the best application. So we usually try to help them find something else they can do with it. But it's been really awesome to see, some very large corporations that want to take responsibility for their product life. And it's not something that's been happening for a very long time.
I know we've been linear for pretty much all of the Industrial Revolution, and look where it's gotten us. Now we're having to figure out how to clean up from basically 200 years of going linear, which is why this whole idea of circularity is such a big idea. I mean, if you look at nature, everything in nature is circular. There's no waste in nature, or everything that's an output from one process is an input to another.
Yep, absolutely.
I think we can learn a lot from nature if we just pay attention.
This is true.
Okay, so we've got lots of different options out here. We've got, we've talked about just using less single packaging or single-use packaging, using more reusable stuff, recycling what you can, and buying recycled. That's another biggie. And you guys obviously are selling stuff made from recycled materials. And you made a really apt point, what to look for on packaging.
Yeah. And so one of the biggest things that you can look for on packaging to try and, help this problem is make sure that you are not being fooled by the marketing scheme that says recyclable versus recycled. There is a big difference, and it is branded that way for a reason, because a lot of people don't see it and don't catch it. Yeah. So make sure that if you're going out there and you're trying to do your part, make sure that you're looking that it says recycled, because if it says recycled, it will also usually have a percentage of how much of it is recycled.
And some of them even will tell you if it's post-consumer or otherwise, right? Yeah.
There's a couple agencies that are working on kind of figuring out the branding for that stuff. But there's a couple people that do.
I know there was a group that worked on a better label for recycling that gave you more information. I can't remember the name of the group, but it's supposed to give more information, like rinse this, put the cap back on, and put it in number 5 plastic or whatever. But there was a lot of the reason this whole group came about, from what I had learned, was because there was so many different ways of labeling all this that was adding to the confusion.
Yeah,
there's already a lot. So the other thing I want to circle back around to is, obviously you guys are in a position where using specific kinds of materials helped you to keep your manufacturing process going much more smoothly and to deliver a more quality product for your users. So one has to assume that that's happening for anybody that's using materials made from recycled materials.
Yes.
So you'd mentioned something about single stream versus separated recycling and how that would help to improve the feedstock.
Yeah.
How do we do that?
Yeah. And so go out and look at your municipality. Every municipality has their recycling pages on their website, and it will list, how the best ways to recycle for their local facilities, what the best ways are for them, what's going to be the best way to actually increase the recyclability of the things that you are throwing in that bin. And then a lot of municipalities also have drop-off locations. And those drop-off locations are actually where the highest rates are of recycling, because usually they do make you sort it from, cardboard to glass to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 types of plastic. And when you do that, it does allow for the manufacturers and the recyclers to go look at it and say, more than likely everything in this bin is, at least 80 or 90% of what it's supposed to be. But that makes it a lot easier for them than having just a bin that has, everything in it, and they'd have to sort through all of it. And the rates of that are much lower.
Well, that makes sense. And I know when we first started recycling, back when you guys were kids, we didn't have single stream yet. So we would save the newspapers for the newspaper drives, and we saved the cans for church. And then we had the glass bottles that went to somewhere else. And
yeah,
I don't know. I didn't feel like we were recycling as much because I guess less was leaving the house. But you make a very good point that even if less is leaving the house, more was making it to its intended destination. So
yeah. And there is hopes there, as we talked about earlier, there's hopes for single stream. If chemical recycling becomes a thing in the next couple of years, they can handle single stream very well, but we're still, a couple of years off from that innovation.
Well, if you wanted to leave everybody with one final thought, what would it be?
The biggest way that you can increase recyclability and really reduce your footprint along that side is always to kind of push industry and do your part. So buy recycled. That's the number one thing that you can do, because a lot of times it's small businesses out there that, they could use your support, and they're going to grow and become big businesses one day. That's the way that we look at it, is that every spool that we make and every spool that we sell is we're saving 2.2 pounds of plastic for every spool that we do. We're getting a new one. And it's crazy when you look at it too, because not only are you saving plastic, but you're saving, resources. Like for us, it's corn. Corn's a big one. It takes 5 pounds of corn to make a pound of plastic. And so, you're saving energy, you're saving water.
We get imperfect food deliveries, and once or twice a year, they'll send me a report with what we have saved by utilizing imperfect foods, what we've saved in carbon, what we've saved in water, and can't remember the other way. Anyway, how many pounds of food we've saved. And it's pretty cool. It makes you feel pretty good that you're like, okay, I'm doing something.
Yeah.
Something meaningful. So there you go. It does make a difference. So every little bit counts. I have to say, I am incredibly proud of you and Hayden. Hayden's his partner, folks, and all of the crew over there at Printerior. What you guys are doing is very, very impressive. And I can say that even not as your mom, just as somebody from the industry. But makes me even prouder to call you my kiddos. I am super excited for where y'all are going. And I think you've got a lot out there to help people with as we continue to tackle some of these really wicked problems.
Yeah, absolutely. We're trying our best.
I think you're doing your best, not just trying. So take one for the team. So everyone, we'll post some of the notes or some of the different links from some of the resources that we talked about today in the show notes. And please be sure to leave us a review. Oh, and go check out Printerior's TikTok channel. Is it just Printerior on TikTok or Printerior Designs?
Printerior Designs. I think it's on every platform now.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot more reels now, so that's good.
Yeah, we've expanded.
They're doing some really fun work on their social media platforms, showing what can be done with 3D printing and some of the projects that they have going on in the shop. So a lot of fun. You guys are knocking it out of the park, too.
Thank you.
Everybody out there, remember, go recycle, buy recycled, and have a great green day.
Bye.
That wraps this episode of the Everyday Green Home Podcast. Get the show notes with all the resources mentioned in this episode. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you never miss an episode. Want more? Join the Love Your Everyday Green Home private Facebook group for more resources and behind-the-scenes insights. And remember that living a little better and greener is easier than you think.